So a few Christians have their buttholes all puckered up because I said the writers of the Bible were a bunch of sheep fuckers. And they're saying that I said all of ancient Israel were a bunch of sheep fuckers, which is just like a ludicrous statement, and we all know that. I've discussed that. But maybe at some point I did say like the ancient Israelites were a bunch of sheep fuckers or something along those lines. So we're going to grant that premise, and we're going to talk about why I should have no respect for ancient Israel. What is up, you sinners and saints, you beautiful, blasphemous people? Welcome back to The Rage. I am your boy, The Raging Atheist. And today, I want to look at the culture of ancient Israel, and I want to answer the question if this is a culture that should be respected by anybody in the modern world. First, gonna send that shout out to my patrons. You guys are the shit. Your support is going a long way to making this a better channel. If you'd like to see all of my edited content before it goes on YouTube, you can do so by supporting me on Patreon. Link is in the description below. Alright, so first, I'm going to preface this by saying, talking about an ancient culture in no way reflects upon that culture today. So when I'm speaking of ancient Jewish people and my dislike for that culture, I am not in any way saying that I have a dislike of Jewish people today. I am simply commenting on this ancient culture that no longer exists. I also have to preface that of course I'm looking through a modern lens because it is the only experience that I could possibly know. I wasn't alive 2,000 years ago to understand their morality or their ethics. I can only look at this through the morality and ethics that I have today. Now, I can look at it and compare it to other civilizations and put it on a chart from bad to worst if it comes to morality in the modern day. And I can also have an understanding that they did have a different morality than I do today. But I can only look through the lens from which I have to look through. So we're going to be looking at the culture of ancient Israel and asking the question if this is a culture that we should somehow give some due respect to, or is this a culture that you look to and you realize it's a good thing that we have evolved as a people on this planet and come to a more secular way of doing things, at least in the modern world, in most of the modern world. We do still have theocracies in third world countries, and places still have a long way to go. But I have to ask anybody that would put this ancient culture up on some pedestal. Why would you do that? What is it about this culture that you find so, just awesome? What is it you like about this culture? Oh, I know. It's the Bible. It's your religion. You've been programmed to think a thing. You see, as Christians, you don't like Jewish people because they don't accept that Jesus Christ was the Messiah. But you must defend ancient Israel because it's in your ancient dust book, this journey from Judaism to becoming Christianity. So, I'm going to have to ask you, what is it about the culture that you like? I'm about to list the things of the culture that I don't like. According to the Deuteronomic Code, captives obtained through warfare were required to be taken as slaves, so long as those victims were not Israelites. It was against the law to take an Israelite as a slave. But the law required captured people in cities that surrendered during wartime. It required them be made into slaves. Except for the cities of 6 nearby tribes, which the law required that no surrender be offered, and every single living human being in those cities be killed. If an Israelite soldier desired to marry a captured woman during warfare, there were some stipulations. She had to shave off all of her hair and wear no cosmetics or no jewelry for a month in order to mourn for those friends and family members that she had just lost. But after that mourning period of a month was over, well, that man that had just killed all of her friends and family, he could just start making the wedding plans. Now, if he ended that relationship, if he chose to end that relationship, say they just fought and bickered all the time, and she wasn't, docile as he would wish, well, he was required under this code to free her, because he had used the point of a sword or a spear to force her into a sexual relationship. He forfeited the option to sell her off as a slave. And now, history will tell you that capture was never really a significant source of Israelite slavery. It was a source of it. And the fact that it happened ever at all, once, that this was some accepted practice of this society, well, that right there, that alone, requires me not to give this society any real respect. A society full of rapists, a society full of men that think that they can just take women and make them theirs, sell them. But we're not done with it. But please, Christians, tell me, what is there to respect about this society? In Numbers 31, Yahweh gives some orders to Moses to seek revenge on the Midianites. And Moses ordered his army to do that, to carry out God's wishes. And the army was very successful in the genocide of the Midianites. But they chose not to kill the children and the women, and they brought the children and the women back to Moses. Well, this didn't please Moses or his God too much. "Have you allowed all the women to live?" he asked them. They were the ones who followed Balaam's advice and enticed the Israelites to be unfaithful to the Lord in the Peor incident, so that a plague struck the Lord's people. Now, kill all the boys, and kill every woman who has slept with a man, but save for yourselves every girl who has never slept with a man. Now, I'm sorry, but this is worse than being a sheep fucker. You're a rapist. You're a slaver. You commit genocide on an entire people because this dude with the voice in his head says that the voice in his head told him that they needed revenge. It was the women's fault because the women slept with Israelite men. And these Israelite men were struck with the plague, which I remind you, God seemed to not have the ability to stop, but he wants revenge for it. So because the Israelite men had chosen to sleep with Midianite women, they killed all of them. And then, deciding to save the children and the women, this wasn't enough for Moses or his blood god. So kill all the women, except for those little girls that had yet to sleep with a man. And kill all the boys, babies, boys. God really doesn't seem to be pro-life here. If a male slave were given a wife during his time of enslavement by his master, when he was freed, that wife and any children as a result of the union would remain property of the master. Thus, you could literally be born as a slave in ancient Israel. Now, you could be born as a slave here recently in the United States, just a couple hundred years ago. Maybe not even that, probably not even that long. And I don't respect that about my own country. Why would I respect that about some ancient civilization that is long dead in the dustbins of history and should be? Because we're a secular world now. This has no place in the modern world. Female slaves were seen as sexual objects and most times treated better than the other slaves, although sexual violence against them was very common. So just stop a moment and think about that. That these women experiencing rape was better than what the other slaves were experiencing in their daily lives. Israelite fathers could sell their daughters, their unmarried daughters, their daughters that would grow up and not get married right away. A father could sell those daughters into this sexual slavery, into this sexual servitude. This is right from the ancient dust book. If a man sells his daughter as a servant, she is not to go free as male servants do. If she does not please the master who has selected her for himself, he must let her be redeemed. He has no right to sell her to foreigners because he has broken faith with her. Now, I am a father of a daughter, right? And if my daughter, if she's not married by 18, I would never consider selling her to anybody. To any man to do with as he pleases. But this society did. So I have to ask you, Icky Taint. I have to ask you, what do you respect about this society? They would also kill their children for being disobedient, for not doing as the parents told them, or if the children were vocally rebellious against their parents. The code required that they kill them, and not just kill them, but stone them to death. If a man has a stubborn and rebellious son who will not obey the voice of his father or the voice of his mother, and, though they discipline him, will not listen to them, then his father and his mother shall take hold of him and bring him out to the elders of his city at the gate of the place where he lives. And they shall say to the elders of his city, "This our son is stubborn and rebellious. He will not obey our voice. He is a glutton and a drunkard." Then all the men of the city shall stone him to death with stones. So you shall purge the evil from your midst, and all Israel shall hear and fear. Like, do you have children, Icky Taint? If your children were disobedient, would you lose your love for your children? I don't know if you have children, but I know I have a child. And I love her dearly. I love her more than anything in the world. I loved my mother more than anything in the world, and she loved me dearly, and I was disobedient to her. We had words several times throughout our life together while she was alive. She still loved me, and I still loved her. She never took me out to the town square so the town could stone me to death. That would have never crossed her mind. And we live in a society, thankfully, that isn't part of our society. So I have to ask you what it is you revere so much about this fucking society and why you insist that I should respect it as well. Oh yeah, and don't forget Psalm 137. O daughter of Babylon, who art to be destroyed, happy shall he be that rewardeth thee as thou hast served us. Happy shall he be that taketh and dasheth thy little ones against the stones. Dash the little ones' heads against the stones, Icky Taint. Like, this is what you endorse? This is what you want society to be like? This is what your perfect God, how he ordered his society to be like? And is this how you want it to be like again? Because you seem to have so much respect for it. Again, by not respecting this does not make me an anti-Semite. It does not mean that I wish harm on any Jewish person in the modern world, or that I hate any Jewish person in the modern world. Because as much as I dislike the government of the modern day Israel, they don't do this. This isn't part of their law anymore. This is an ancient culture and civilization, long gone to the dustbins of history, as their books should be. As always, this is The Rage. I am your boy, The Raging Atheist. If you want to help us grow, share us on your social media. The algorithm and YouTube is really against this channel. Demonetization has really hurt. Hit the thumbs up. All the interactions you can do with the channel is going to help the channel grow, help the channel get on that algorithm once again. But as always, I'm going to see you soon.